Wanda, with this movie, we obviously see her introduced into ingrained into the world of magic, but in the comics, she is obviously a massive part of the X-Men as well. And knowing that is coming in the next few years, I'm curious if that is something on your radar and that you're at all preparing for.
It's got to be.
No, you just got me excited. Yeah. Because I don't really know what I do next after this movie. I don't really know. I want to know what fans want and what the ideas are. But I guess
from the rubble.
I got some ideas. You want to call me?
I'll want to be there.
We want you there. Yes.
I have no actual plans yet. I am very excited.
We need to see her
about that
ASAP.
Yeah.
I just love how sweet Elizabeth Olsen is when it comes to fan casting and fan opinions. It would be so easy for any of the cast and crew to just be like, you thought it was this, but we actually never talked about that. Where she's like, no, tell me what you want.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think.
I love that approach, and she obviously seems very mindful of the fans, and I love that about her, and it comes through in her performance in the movie.
Well, Lizzie Olsen, we can't wait to see you again, and thank you so much to Cinema Blend for asking the great questions and giving us a great interview clip.
Yeah.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. We have now crossed the threshold into an MCU on the other side of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Spoiler warning, but that MCU has been officially codified now with the numerical designation of Earth Dimension 616. But what does this mean for the comics universe of 616? Which comics have suggested exist separate within the multiverse alongside the universe of the films? I swear to God, we're not just some nerds overthinking this. The answer is extremely important to how we look at the MCU going forward as X-Men someday join the fray, as Wanda returns to join that fray. But will she be even invited to this party? Because we gotta say, after watching this movie, Wanda the
is going on? What the? Oh, jeez.
And Whitney, you can get in there. You get in there too.
Wanda,
give us your Wanda.
Come on.
That's right.
Oh my God, language, Whitney! I can't even believe you even said that. Wow.
I didn't know I was allowed to swear on this show. I never know when I'm allowed to, when I'm not.
Same here.
The rules are different. When we dream walk into our inside Marvel variant selves, the potty mouth, it's unleashed.
No,
that's the rules. That's how it works here.
Let me try this out. Darn. I feel bad already.
It's Inside Marvel, everyone. It's New Rockstars' weekly Marvel reaction show. We have now moved on from our Moon Knight coverage to unpack your biggest questions after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm Erik Voss, and with me today are two of my favorite people, MT.
What's going on?
And Whitney Van Laningham.
Hi, hello. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited, you guys.
We're happy to have you, Whitney.
Happy to have you.
Welcome
I got a
Marvel.
sweet little invitation this morning to come on the show, and it was like,
yes,
hell
we
yeah,
invited
I'm
her
gonna
by
do that.
Hogwarts Owl.
Yes, they did. Hogwarts Owl. It showed up at my house. I was brushing my teeth, and all of a sudden, owl through the window, right in the face.
Feathers everywhere. We're sorry about those talon scars. They'll heal up real fast.
Those usually heal up fast. Luckily.
Usually.
Well, I wanted more hands on deck this week to unpack this movie. We're gonna have 4 weeks really before, at least 4 before Miss Marvel hits us, where we can really just figure out what just happened in Multiverse of Madness and how the whole landscape has changed. I am still processing this movie. I had a blast the 3 times I saw it in theaters. But in one of my favorite audience reactions, each of the 3 times I saw it, was when 838 Christine Palmer says that they have designated Doctor Strange's home reality, the universe of the MCU films, as, quote, Universe 616. And without fail, that line always got either a cheer or a gasp or some kind of murmur.
That's right.
Whereas, I don't know about you, but our man Bruce Campbell, clearly all these bros who screamed, "Let's go!" at Tobey Maguire at No Way Home didn't actually watch Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, because Bruce Campbell's a huge part of all of those.
Yes.
Folks, I got to just say, there's more to Raimi's Spider-Man than just your Bully Maguire memes. But either way, we're going to spend today's episode unpacking what exactly the 616 designation means and how it fits into the logic of the past MCU films as well as the comics. What it tells us now about where we're headed. But be sure to check out newrockstarsmerch.com to see our latest obsession shirt called Shattered Madness. This limited edition shirt is inspired by Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And like all of our latest Obsession shirts, once it's gone for good. So support the channel. Check out all of our new awesome merch options over at newrockstarsmerch.com. All right, MT, if you don't mind, I'm going to let Whitney ask the question this week.
Yes, Whitney, ask away.
All right, the question today is, what does it mean for the MCU to be labeled Universe 616? What's that gonna do to our multiverse? What's that gonna do to the others?
Great question, Whitney. So Doctor Strange and America Chavez travel to Earth 838 and are taken to the Baxter Foundation, where 838 Christine explains that she has designated this universe that they're in currently as 838, but the universe where Stephen Strange came from, the MCU, as 616. Now, 616, of course, is a numerical designation of the primary Marvel universe in the comics. It was actually devised in 1983 by comics writer David Thorpe. You should go read this interview. It's incredible. He decided to do this for a Captain Britain reboot. And, you know, back in the 80s, these Marvel writers, they're like, yeah, I'll just do whatever. They had no idea that it would turn into this whole freaking thing where the axis of a cinematic universe is all based on this. He's just like, I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun to do this.
I just made that.
I just picked random numbers.
Which is why I think we need to track all these comics writers down and pay them their money.
Yes.
Stop just giving them special thanks in the credits of these movies. Give them a cut.
Give them a little bit of your
office.
gajillion dollars, Disney. Come on.
Without them, none of this would exist.
Disney has too much money. They should just be giving it away to these people.
Seriously.
Everything they write was work for hire. I get that it's I get that it's Marvel. Marvel owns it all, but still, just, you know, kick them back a little bonus. Give them
just
something.
Give them Huey, Dewey, or Louie. At least one of them. You have plenty of them. You have multiples.
But I love this quote because he said they wanted the Captain Britain Corps to be more of a multiversal organization in this reboot. And he said that the 616 universe was selected as, quote, the worst performing Earth that was holding the others back. Now, why did he choose the number 616? Well, get this. Thorpe said that he gave many people alternate answers over the years, but that the truth is that he based it on 666, the number of the beast, minus 50. He just shows a nice round number away from the most frightening number.
Honestly,
so
I was getting
crazy.
666 vibes from 616.
Listen,
so it's really funny
and that's
that
all I
that is
to
actually
hear.
the answer.
Dude, I had
It's
no
all
idea
based
that
on
makes me
Mephisto.
like it more. Yeah, look, I'm
Mephisto
wearing my metal-ass
confirmed,
Mephisto
everyone.
today.
Whitney's on it.
Look,
She already done knew.
prepared.
Now, ever since then in the comics, 616 has been the number of the main Marvel universe, the one with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, the universe where Bucky is forever dead. That changed with the Ultimates universe in the early 2000s, where a lot of these things were changed, of course. Miles Morales became Spider-Man. But these numerical designations came up whenever multiversal stories were the focus. So like the Spider-Verse comics, the Secret Wars comics, where we saw the incursion between 616 and 1610. But now, the fact that the MCU is being called 616, you could totally just take that to mean that this is how Marvel Studios is now codifying the primary universe of the movies. The movie universe being an adaptation of the comics universe. But it's a bit more complicated than that, because until now, the MCU film universe has been considered a distinct, separate universe alongside the comics universe. Both of them part of a transmedia multiverse of different universes. So the comics universe has been 616. The MCU has been Earth 199999. That label came from Kevin Feige quotes where he was joking that he wanted the Marvel Studios films to last for 199,999 years. And there have been various Easter eggs that we talked about hinting that the film universe could have been connected to 616. So like in Avengers Endgame, Scott Lang's storage locker had 616 written on the sign. In Spider-Man Far From Home, Mysterio Quentin Beck claimed to be from Earth Dimension 833, whereas this universe was Earth Dimension 616. And we've talked about how weird that now is, considering Quentin Beck wasn't from an alternate universe. He was just fabricating all of this. So he just happened to pull the right number out, which is hilarious.
How did that work?
Well, Guterman was obviously a watcher or a TVA agent or something. That's the only way it makes sense.
I like to think that, like, what if like the Fantastic Four wrote that book that Guterman was reading? That'd be really fun. I don't know.
Oh, maybe you got to look at the byline on that. That was written by Mr. B. Grimm.
B. Grimm. It's all like written in like a New York accent, like from the streets. Like no, I don't know. Sorry, continue. It's funny.
But most critically of all these Easter eggs, Loki episode 1, an episode also conceived of by Michael Waldron, the screenwriter of Multiverse of Madness. The TVA film strip of Loki's MCU Life and Death is labeled 616. We'll talk about that a bit later. But meanwhile, in Captain America the First Avenger, kids in the 1940s of the MCU history were reading issues of Captain America #1 with the same exact comic cover of Cap punching Hitler, implying 616 comics exist within the MCU. And if you're an avid comic reader, you may just be struggling with the 616 designation because, again, there is evidence that comics versions of Loki and the Young Avengers have actually visited the universe of the MCU films within the pages of those comics. So that would imply both that the 616 universe and the MCU universe are separate. But the problem with that is, after we watch this movie, guys, America Chavez. In the comics, America Chavez identifies herself as the only version of her that exists across the multiverse, but America Chavez in the movie says the same exact thing. That would imply, at least from the point of view of Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige, that they consider the movies to just be an adaptation of the comics universe, not a separate universe that exists alongside it across a film and print media landscape that's connected. But I think another clue to this being the case, even though it's from another studio and another medium even, 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Remember, that movie also uses the Marvel Comics numerical designations. Peter Parker, 616, Miles Morales, 1610. Now, while that movie is, of course, animated, and it does pretty closely follow Miles Morales' origin in the comics, like he takes over for Peter Parker after he dies in the 1610 reality, it's not exactly the same. They took some liberties with that movie. So if we were to just assume the 1610 in that movie is the same as the 1610 of the comics, we would really just negate everything Brian Michael Bendis did and Sarah Pichelli did to actually create those panels and the words of the comics pages in favor of just the animators of the movie and what they created. So I think the best way, this is just me, I think the best way to look at this is there is a 1610 in the comics. There's also a 1610 in the movies.
I think you mean 616.
Both are true.
One more time.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said 1610.
1610.
2 times.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's technically true. But anyway.
They're both true, but whatever.
Yeah.
So really, this is just me. But the best way to look at this is there is a 616 in the comics and there's a 616 in the movies. And both are valid. Both are true. One isn't more important than the other. But that's just my take on it. MT, Whitney, I want to know what you make of this.
Man, all I know is this is about to make my research work at this company 10 million times harder because now when I Google stuff, instead of doing MCU and 616 separately, I'm going to be like, okay, wait, but MCU 616 for this, but comic 616 for this? Like, so for the purposes of my job, little frustrated. However, in general, very stoked. I think it's a cool idea. I don't see why there can't be an adaptation for film. So many book mediums do that. It's the same thing with I mean, let's just look at the Twilight Saga, shall we? Like that's adapted from the book.
When do I not
but
look
the
at
books are still valid. No, I've never actually read Twilight, so I have no idea.
Me neither.
I know it's about vampires, but
It's
about so much more than vampires, Whitney. There's also werewolves in it.
There's also werewolves.
It's a prequel to
and
Morbius, guys. We all know this.
It's a Morbius prequel. Well, goddamn, why didn't you say that sooner? Now I have to get on it.
MT, I want to know your take on the 616. Is it a hard and fast rule now that the MCU is 616? Are there other ways to look at this?
I honestly believe that the whole 616 designation is primarily like, it sort of just means home in terms of what medium that you're looking at it from. So for example, the MCU is considered 616 because it's the main home universe that we're all familiar with. So like whatever the home is of all of these characters that we know, that is going to be 616. So therefore, like, you know, in Into the Spider-Verse, it's a little bit different because like you said, Peter Parker was from the 616, and then like Miles Morales, like in the comics, is in 1610. So like because of that Miles Morales story, it's a little bit different there. But in general, like in the comics, when we have 616, they're just basically saying this is the main universe, and like all the other universes in the comics, like 1610 and like Earth 242, which is one of my personal favorites, which is an Earth just completely on fire. It's just all on fire. It just doomed.
So it's just the meme with the dog, but the whole universe?
Yes, it's literally that, but the entire planet. Earth 242. This is fine planet. So yeah, those like, it's from the perspective of like that main universe. So like, it makes sense to me that the MCU is called 616 because from our perspective of these gods reading these comics, like Earth 1999 is like, that has to be the designation because there's so many 616s for us. Like we have a zillion 616s, so we need like a really ridiculous number to specifically designate the MCU. So I think it all really boils down to the perspective of who is in that universe, and like if they're the main characters of that universe, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, MT, that like within the universe of the context, like the way we should interpret the universe is that 616 is just like the template. It's the baseline.
Right.
I think we should point out that it was 838 Christine Palmer who named it 616 in this context. So to her, it's not her home.
Yeah,
but I
exactly.
think it's her way of acknowledging to like us that like where we came from, you, the viewer, 616 is basically zero. It's basically a ground zero of wherever the multiverse is
essentially. So like if the character is not part of like the main universe, then like they were going to call the main universe 616 because it's the universe that like we are familiar with. It's the MCU. So like they sort of have to go, like the writers have to write it. So like, all right, Christine Palmer from another universe is going to call the main MCU 616 because it has to be like organized for all the viewers at home to know that like this is just home base. And so Yeah, I think the griping that we're probably still going to hear either in the comments or on social media are the comics readers who still firmly believe that the MCU is actually Earth 199999 and we cannot trust 838 Christine Palmer, that she's just like, that's just what she names it, but that's not what it is called objectively in the MCU. But my counter argument to that would be the TVA film strip. The TVA is a pretty solid authority that is not attached to any one reality or any one universe even. And they labeled Loki's MCU reality as 616. I think that's a pretty solid, I mean, to me, that's a pretty solid, compelling argument that like objectively in the MCU, Marvel Studios wants us to see the MCU is called 616. And I think if you could just like step back from what you read in the comics and just look at it objectively, Kevin Feige's trying to simplify this for everybody. And everybody who's watching these movies who maybe hasn't read those specific Young Avengers or saw that Loki passport and said, oh, well, Loki visited the movies. I think it's just his simple way of saying this universe is 616. That's just what we're calling it now. And you called it 1999 based off of a joke that I said, but that's never a number I use. But I think my question for you guys now is like, if this is true that it was originally based on 666, is the implication of that like there is a Marvel 666 and that is the mark of the beast that might be in the MCU where we meet Mephisto? That I would.
I'm looking it up right now.
That would be banana. There has to be an Earth 666 at this point. We've had so many designations that like
that's where I'm
totally
from, you
has an
guys.
Earth 666.
There is a world 666, and that's where I was
there
born,
is a world
babies. Come on.
There is an Earth 666 in the comics, also known as Earth 4680. It is the realm of a brother. It's where Brother Voodoo hid the orb of necromancy, put it deep in Shuma Gorath's ego maze. It is a hellish dimension with all kinds of supernatural entities like vampires, werewolves, mummies, etc. So there could be a dimension of that in the live action MCU now.
Ooh,
it's totally possible.
Earth 666 is possible. My God, I do love me some Brother Voodoo.
Metal as hell universe of the MCU. I want to go live in the metal version of the multiverse. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, and I think that it's quite possible that we could end up going there in Doctor Strange 3, considering that we do go to the dark dimension with Clea. And like that is a dark realm. So maybe we're going to be hopping to different darker universes. I think that'd be really fun. Like Earth 666.
All right, I have some more questions I want to talk with you all about with Multiverse of Madness. First, I want to thank some people who helped us make this episode. Thank you to our sponsors, Helix Sleep. Even if you have a magical armor that appears out of nowhere to help you fight crime, you still need a good night's sleep on a mattress made just for you. Well, our friends at Helix Mattress are here to make sure you have that. Helix Sleep has a quiz that matches your body type and your sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. They have soft, medium, firm mattresses. Mattresses are great for cooling you down if you sleep hot. Even a Helix Plus mattress for plus size sleepers. I have a Helix mattress. I love it. MT, you got a Helix mattress.
Yes, I sleep on on it every night and I've loved it for like every single like week that I've had it. It's my sleep has never been better.
I have a different kind of mattress and I'm dead now.
Whitney's on the outside looking in the Helix Clubhouse.
My bones creak daily. I'm now from the multiverse where I'm dead in that reality because my mattress isn't as good as MT and Eric's.
No one dream walk into Whitney.
A mattress. Get this Whit a Helix. Make it happen. Well, the mattress ships right to your door for free. No need to go to a mattress store. Just go to helixsleep.com/InsideMarvel. Take their 2-minute sleep quiz and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. They have a 10-year warranty and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you're going to love it. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/InsideMarvel. We also want to thank Brooklinen for sponsoring this episode. Do you wish you could travel to a universe full of super comfortable bedding? Well, good news. You already live in it. This version of the multiverse has Brooklinen. Brooklinen, home of the internet's favorite sheets, was created in 2014 to give customers luxury hotel level home essentials that don't break the bank. They offer everything from snuggly sheets to cozy towels and robes, loungewear, accessories, and much more. By working directly with suppliers, Brooklinen cuts out the markups and passes those savings back to their customers so you get their incredible products at a reasonable cost. Treat yourself with Brooklinen's linen sheets. They are super airy and feature a trendy, wrinkled look that is oh so stylish. Bed making optional, my friends. No need to make the bed. First time trying Brooklinen? Well, their best-selling Luxe sheets are the perfect place to start, featuring an irresistibly soft feel and a buttery smooth finish. So go to brooklinen.com, use promo code InsideMarvel to get $20 off your purchase of $100 or more. That's BROOKLINEN.com. Enter the promo code InsideMarvel for $20 off your purchase today at Brooklinen, the curators of comfort. All right, shifting gears here. There's an important conversation happening around Multiverse of Madness that I think we need to have here on New Rockstars. A lot of people watching this movie feel that it is pretty disconnected with the way they saw WandaVision. That WandaVision was a story of a mother and a wife overcoming her grief, and then by the end of that, learning some critical lessons. And then they feel like this movie does Wanda's character dirty. It might undo some of her character development from WandaVision. It's obviously a very complicated conversation to have, but I think we can have it respectably here as best as we can. So I wanted to ask everyone here, do we feel like Multiverse of Madness undid Wanda's character development from WandaVision? And even if it did, how did that affect your viewing of this movie?
I don't think so at all. I do not get that criticism at all, considering the ending of WandaVision and how Wanda... The last shot was Wanda reading the Darkhold. And the one thing that the Darkhold does is exactly what happened in the Multiverse of Madness. I don't understand why people weren't expecting this to happen. This is literally the one thing that everyone says that the Darkhold does. It corrupts you. So like the character development of WandaVision, yeah, she did learn the lessons, but that was before she read the Darkhold and up all the lessons that she learned. So like, I don't understand what people are really surprised about personally, because that's just the Darkhold. And like, that's just what it is.
I think MT, this gets to a thing. I think a lot of folks view post-credit scenes different than other fans. I know when I watch a post-credit scene, that's how I walk out of a theater. That's like my lasting image, or like click off of a screening. Yeah, that mountain cabin was pretty big. But I think for a lot of people who watch WandaVision, and this is a completely valid interpretation, that they really view the ending as her saying goodbye to her kids, saying goodbye to Vision, letting the Hex die, learning the lesson of what is love, what is grief if not love, persevering. To them, that is the emotional climax and ending and resolution of WandaVision. Not this post-credit scene. And I think a lot of them secretly didn't like that post-credit scene. But Whitney, I want to get you in on this conversation. What were your thoughts? Man.
I'm actually of the camp that it's not that I didn't like that they did this. I think that it absolutely makes sense. And the Darkhold explanation absolutely makes sense. But I think that I was also one of the people who I really felt very strongly connected to the way that WandaVision ended. And I really, I also took away I love that, in their last conversation together, Vision says, who knows what I'll be next, and that kind of to me was like the closer of that was like, okay, you might not have your family in this way ever again, but somewhere out there, you know that that's what's going on. And so that's how I kind of interpreted the end of WandaVision. So I was a little bit surprised, but I think that the reason why isn't that I was surprised that this happened in Multiverse of Madness. I think that because so much of that corruption happened off screen, like we know that that's what the Darkhold does. Like we are very aware, but we kind of didn't get to see that like day by day decline into absolute madness. Like we see that cabin, you know, that she's in, and the cabin looks fine. And then and then we see the orchard and everything zooms out and the cabin's all dilapidated and gross. And it's like, whoa, how'd we get there from the end of WandaVision to now? So I think that it does make sense. And the Darkhold thing does make sense. And it makes a lot more sense, too, if you watch the Collider interview with Elizabeth Olsen, where she explains that she felt like she was playing a version of Wanda in this movie where she might have been divorced from Vision, or they might not be together anymore. They might be separated. She might have moved on. And the most important aspect to her was just finding her children. So after I read that, and knowing what the Darkhold done gonna go and do to you, I do agree that it was the right choice for the movie. I think that for me, what would have really melded my love for the ending of WandaVision and the beginning of this is if we had just a little bit more of that on-screen corruption. I think would have helped me and maybe helped other viewers. But I didn't hate it. I love this movie. I think it's great. It's so much fun. It's so spooky. I just cried so hard at the ending of WandaVision, you guys. I just loved it so much, and I wanted that in my little heart forever.
It's a really emotional ending. I really loved it.
It sure is.
You make so many good points, Whitney. I think you're 100% right that seeing that journey, that descent off screen or on screen would have helped so much, even if it was didn't need to be more of a post-credit scene. I mean, maybe it would have helped to see some of those trees around the cabin start to corrupt or get twisted or something like that. But I think we just needed more context around the Darkhold in general, bringing in the Darkhold earlier in WandaVision. Now, in fairness to Marvel, it seemed like they were producing a lot of the stuff concurrently, out of order than what they expected. You know, I'm not sure. It seemed like Multiverse of Madness might, like, originally WandaVision was just supposed to come out the spring of the same year Multiverse of Madness was going to come out. We don't know if it was going to be before or after or what. But like, yeah, it seems like they weren't totally clear what was going to get introduced when, whether the Darkhold was going to be introduced in Multiverse of Madness, and then that was going to give us our context for the book. And it seemed like maybe they had to suddenly introduce it on WandaVision. But, you know, our friends our colleagues at the Ringerverse podcast, Joanna Robinson, Mallory Rubin, did an amazing deep dive into Multiverse of Madness and talked about this so eloquently. And one thing Joe pitched was, if we had just seen another multiversal version of Wanda that showed her without needing her kids, like we just saw a Wanda without her kids and that Wanda was fine. That might have done a lot to undo a lot of the bad taste in people's mouths, because then we could have seen, oh, this woman isn't defined by whether or not she has kids, you know? She's not, you know, that line of like, I'm not a monster, I'm a mother, just felt a little like we don't, women aren't defined solely on whether or not they have children. And it would have been great if we could have just seen one other variant of Wanda, just to like give us that, you know, just to show this Wanda as just a unique mother, a unique woman.
I want new girl Wanda. I want that new girl variant of Wanda. That's what Jake Johnson and the boys.
It's Scarlet Witch.
I mean, we already saw a bit of that in WandaVision, right? WandaVision episode 7 or 8. One of them did kind of like, the opening was a bit new girly.
Yeah, we should have straight up had a new girl episode of WandaVision. Are you kidding me? That would have been hilarious.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think what surprised me most about this is like how much, like, I love WandaVision. To me, it's like WandaVision and Loki. Day by day, it changes which one is at the top of my Marvel Disney Plus shows ranking. And I think what I love so much about it is just how much of a love letter it was to television history, and how great Elizabeth Olsen was and Catherine Hahn and Whitney were at playing up those tropes. The whole cast, it's just such a cool show, unlike anything I'd ever seen. But to me, like, people coming out of Multiverse of Madness really viewing WandaVision as like sacred text that can be undone in any way. I'm like, I walked out of that show feeling like another slightly confusing Marvel title that broke the rules. To me, this is Marvel's legacy. Every MCU title undoes certain things about what led to it. I mean, Thor Ragnarok was completely sacrilege to so much about Thor.
Oh,
That's what we like about it.
That's why we like it, though. It's fun.
Yeah. All of these completely changed things we thought about the characters.
I definitely caught myself. I had to have a talk with myself where I was like, yeah, but I really miss what happened and who knows what I'll be next. And it makes me cry. And then I was like, Whitney, you're being one of those fans who's so attached to something that they can't like see outside of themselves and their own mirror. And I was like, it's because I see myself so much in this show that I can't like, that I'm like, that's why it's precious to me because it's me, you know? And so it's like, and then I had to catch myself and be like, Whitney, you dumbass bitch, just enjoy the goddamn movie. Just do it.
Honestly,
and
I feel like
it helped. I did. I just talked myself out of being a toxic, like parasocial relationship with the Scarlet Witch. Yep. I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
I don't think that's toxic.
No,
I think those feelings are valid.
I don't think. Yeah, I think that this is like a huge testament towards like Marvel Studios and the types of stories that they're telling, and the fact that you can even attach yourself to Wanda. And the way that they are able to
grab a hold of you that hard, like it really is.
Exactly.
Like they just grab onto your goddamn heart and squish it like it's Wanda ripping Ultron's oil machine out of his chest. Like that's how they get you.
Yeah. And Whitney, I think your reactions to that, your love of that line from Vision.
I love it so much.
I don't think about that line a lot, but you're right that it was such a cool,
it's my favorite line.
I
literally cry, Eric, every single time I've had to rewatch that scene, like for work. I have started fully sobbing at my desk, fully every single time. I love it so much. It makes me so happy and sad at the same time.
Yeah, and in the same way that I'm seeing a lot of Marvel Twitter, which is something that I normally fear and avoid.
Yes, very scary indeed.
A lot of people are taking specific lines from this movie, which is, people are like being really hard on the writing of this movie. But there's some beautiful lines, some heartbreaking lines in this movie where just out of context, you could argue it's out of context, but I think that people are completely respecting the context where Wanda says, I had to blow a hole in my husband's head and it meant nothing.
Yeah.
Or I love you in every universe. Like so many of these lines are connecting with people and I don't want to take that away from anyone at all. I think ultimately, whatever you feel, whatever you take away from a movie is completely fine. It's true for you and that's true in your heart. I think what becomes an issue is when people go online and try to deny each other's experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think any of us want to do that.
And honestly, that's what makes movies so much fun. And stupid Twitter forgets this, but it's like, it's okay that all of us have a completely different experience and reaction to something because we're all different people and we have different stories ourselves. So of course we're going to connect to different things differently. So I would never say you can't feel your gosh dang feels.
Your emotional truth while consuming a piece of content is not universally everyone's emotional truth that they all have to subscribe to.
Exactly.
And exactly.
Let's all say exactly one more time.
3 exactly.
Well, speaking of reactions and people's subjective reactions to things being totally okay, one of my favorite things about seeing a movie in as packed of a crowd, as crowded of a movie theater as I can, is just hearing the random weird stuff that people vocalize when they're watching a movie. So I wanted to have in this episode with just us chatting about when we saw this movie in the theater in the past week. What were some of the most surprising and weirdest reactions you heard, either from yourself or from people around you, while you saw this movie?
Okay, I, for one, the part that made me actively laugh out loud, I was the only person laughing, and my boyfriend had to kick me and be like, "You stop it, it's not a funny scene," was when Charles Xavier shows up in the Mindscape, and he's cosplaying Steve Jobs. He looks exactly like Steve Jobs. And I was just like, in this multiverse, Steve Jobs is Professor X.
Hold on,
I still can't stop laughing about it. It's so funny.
just answered a huge question for me because when I saw it, someone burst out laughing when Patrick Stewart showed up in the turtleneck. Yes. And I was like, what is so funny about this?
You were hearing me laugh all the way from Los Angeles. That's what that was.
I was so thrilled. I'm like, does this person know what's coming? Have they seen it already and they know where this, or is it just like that nervous laughter? They're like, oh no, he's gonna die.
No, it was specifically Steve Jobs themed laughter.
Steve Jobs Xavier.
Professor Jobs. Why not?
So for me, like everyone cheered at Krasinski, like universally, people lost their minds.
Oh yeah.
But crickets to Bruce Campbell. Like, did you guys have that experience too? I got
absolute crickets to Bruce Campbell. It was very weird. I was like, that's Bruce Campbell, guys. What's wrong with you? That's Bruce Campbell. That's the joke.
I saw it in a pro Bruce Campbell theater. We were hollering. We were dragging each other to hell. It was great.
We brought the Bruce Campbell Discord over to the theater.
Pizza Papa.
Pizza Papa, my favorite MCU character next
Pizza
to
Papa
Tuareg.
Always gets paid.
He always gets paid.
I know. I love how he said Pizza Papa.
That is like the sluttiest line in the MCU. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's beautiful, and I love it.
I feel like this implies that Pizza Papa is also a pimp. It sounds like it's like he always gets paid. I'm like, does that even? What does that mean? Paid. I don't know. Anyway, but no, I think though a weird reaction for me. Well, one of the funniest was obviously when Krasinski came up because like I was sitting next to a couple and like the girlfriend seemed like she wasn't really into Marvel movies and she was like, "Oh my God, is that Jim?" And I just cracked up. I was like, she was so excited for Jim. I was like, you know what? Worth the price of admission because like that was too wholesome. That was too wholesome.
I would have just turned to her and I would have been like, yes, bitch, in this multiverse, he's he actually was a paper salesman from Scranton, believe it or not.
Yeah, I know. I'm of both minds when it comes to these things because on one hand, I am writing notes when I go see these movies and it's work for me, which sucks that it's work for me. I mean, you guys also now that you work for New Rockstars, you have to write notes in movies too. But like,
me in the back row with my phone on dim, baby, just going.
Oh no, Whitney, we need to have a workshop on like how to just like keep your place and write shorthand so you don't.
Oh, dude, I tried that. I tried the Eric method once. You told me, and it smeared my pen all over my page. It was just a hopeless blur by the end of it. It was not good.
You gotta use a pencil. Yeah, because otherwise the ink's gonna smear.
Back row, iPhone, light on the lowest setting. That's how I do it.
Well, my thinking is like I just want to be able to hear the lines. What drives me nuts is like when I first saw this movie, the first screening, I did not hear the Ron Wasserman da-na-na-na-na-na because people were screaming so loud.
They were screaming.
And that's the coolest part. I didn't catch that till the second screening. Thank God I saw it, second time.
Yeah, twice.
So like, yeah, like it bumps you out when you're like, you can go, or you can go, yeah, you can start clapping, but you do not need to scream, let's go for a 6 count.
Why?
Yeah, okay. I did say I was one of the let's goers, but like I wasn't very loud. But when I did hear that Franklin and Valeria existed, I was like, yes, let's go! Because I love Valeria so much. Like she's one of my favorite Marvel characters, Valeria Richards. So like I'm so happy. So I did lit
for
out
sure.
a little let's
That's
go.
Fine. Short little bursts are fine. And in fact, when I saw No Way Home, the second or third time I saw No Way Home, there was a guy who was sitting next to me who like when Matt Murdock showed up and people go, yeah, he goes, shut up. Jesus Christ. Shut up!
Shut your goddamn face!
You gotta let people do their thing. Relax, man. Like I'm the one with the notepad, and I'm not shushing people. Like, come on, bro.
Wow, I mean, Daredevil's a religion for some people, man. They take him very seriously.
I guess so.
I think the most there were 2 surprising. One was like for me when Sam Raimi. I know Sam Raimi. I love Sam Raimi from The Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Drag Me to Hell, all of his non-Spider-Man stuff. I love a good Sam Raimi jump scare, and when Sam Raimi's horror gets goofy. I think Sam Raimi wants us to kind of giggle at some of his campy horror. That's part of the fun of it. And there is a moment where like when Doctor Strange is streamwalking into the zombie Defender Strange.
I know what you're gonna say.
Sam Raimi hilariously cuts back to Doctor Strange, where Benedict Cumberbatch is just going.
Yeah.
And I giggle. I'm like, that's freaking hilarious. And I got a quarter turn. Someone in the row in front of me goes,
How dare you?
Like, they didn't say it, just give me that look as if to say, like, dude.
Why?
And I was like, come on, man. Have you never seen a Sam Raimi? Sam Raimi wants us to laugh at this. Are you kidding me? That is a comedically timed take.
That's funny.
So I felt a little bad, but I'm like, man, everyone's cut from a different cloth. That's fine. But to me, my favorite was when Professor X goes, just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they're lost forever. Which to me, I was like, oh, I think that was in Days of Future Past.
Ew.
There was one guy behind me who goes, yes! So one Days of Future Past nerd who knew that script word for word, recognized that line right away. He confirmed it for me. I'm like, oh, I guess it was from Days of Future Past.
Honestly, we make videos for that guy. That's
exactly.
why we do what we do. We make videos for that
for
specific man.
So we want to hear from all of you in the comments below. We don't want to hear any of your other comments. Just tell us the other crazy reactions that you heard during your screening. That's my favorite thing about watching a movie in a crowded theater. Tweet us the funniest thing you heard in the theater. I'm just going to give you another example. When I saw Endgame, there was a son and his dad. This is like the third time I saw it on like the following Tuesday. So the theater wasn't packed fully, but the dad was sleeping through most of the movie. And then his son kept having to explain to him who everyone was. I thought it was so sweet.
Oh, that's sweet.
This guy was like in his 60s or something like that, and just like clearly didn't get anything that was happening. And then at the very end of the movie, when Old Cap shows up, he leans over to his son and goes, "Hey, that's Clint Eastwood."
Yeah, I know this one. I got this one, kid. That's
He's like, I know this one.
I know
That's
who
Clint
this guy
Eastwood.
is.
He's like, me and my son are finally gonna connect here. I'm gonna teach him a thing or two. I love these little moments.
I love theater reactions, man. Like, I can't wait till like all the Reed Richards reactions hit YouTube, because like I need to watch those. Like, those give me serotonin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So good. I love movies. And I love you guys. Thank you for joining
I love you too.
us this week for Inside Marvel. And over the weeks ahead, we're going to be talking more and more about other loose cues that you got about Multiverse of Madness.
Loose cues.
Hit us up on Twitter.
Why'd you say that so gross, Eric? Why did you say it like that? I don't want your
all of
loose
our fans
cues.
got them loose cues.
The cues are loose.
Tighten them up. Tighten up
cue.
those cues.
Give me a cue. Give me a cue.
Use some starch, tighten up those cues. I don't know what that means. Anyway.
Hey, don't forget to check out our great Marvel merch options at NewRockstarsMerch.com. If you're over 18, check out the New Rockstars Discord server in the description. Enjoy that conversation where they're weirdly critical of all of us. And follow me at EA Voss. Follow MT at MasterTainment. Follow Whitney at Whitney Puppy.
Yes.
Don't forget to subscribe to Inside Marvel wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, love you guys.
Bye.